Good evening, ladies and gents. Can you all hear me okay? That's a good start. Well, welcome along. It's been a long time, hasn't it, since we've been able to be together like this. So thank you for all your support throughout the pandemic, and it's great that you can come down and see Ian a bit closer than you usually would. I'm sure Ian's very excited to be answering your questions this evening. Is that right, boss?
Absolutely, yep.
Good stuff. We're also very kindly joined by his assistant, Michael Doyle, and club captain, Carl Cameron. So it should be a really interesting evening. Just go through a bit of housekeeping to start. I'm sure you've already been accosted by Lynn and Pete on the door. Lynn, give us a wave. She's running a raffle today, Lynn. £1 a ticket, a few really good prizes up for grabs. We're going to be drawing the winners at the start of the second half of this event. So just to run through the format for you, the first 45 minutes are pre-submitted questions. So thank you to everybody who did that. We'll have a break for about 15 to 20 minutes where you can go to the bar, use the toilet, and then we'll come back and I'll be taking questions from the floor. So have a think. If there's anything you really want to know, you can ask away. Right, I'll stop talking. We'll leave it to the guys that you're actually here to hear about. So we're going to kick off with the pre-submitted questions. We've got a few for the gaffer first, as expected. The first one comes from Oliver Green. He asks Ian, do you think it'll be hard to keep the majority of this squad should we not go up this season? Roberts, Palmer, Rodriguez, Whatton are all Football League players, in his opinion.
Well, I guess that they are potential Football League players, as they're playing in the National League now. But no, I don't think so. I think that all of them but Carl Whatton has a contract, so there's absolutely no reason why they wouldn't want to be here. I think when we signed, certainly Matty Palmer most recently, he was wanting something that was part of a long-term vision, a long-term project for himself. And I know that he's really enjoying his time at the club. The same, Cal Roberts is developing. Ruben Rodriguez is developing, so I think right now I'm not too concerned about that. I think we play good football, and I think that the lads are moving in the right direction, and I think they see a bigger picture. So sometimes the draw of the league can be really attractive, but to be honest with you, if you watch a lot of League Two, there's absolutely no difference really in the top end of the league that we're in terms of quality and what I'm seeing in League Two. So I think unless there was huge bids from higher leagues, I find it hard to see them not being here.
You ready to talk some tactics?
Always.
So we've had
always.
Stephen Steele, Stuart Proud, Neil Gribben and Mark Brown all asked a very similar question. Ian, your preferred style of play is attacking, free-flowing football. So why do we always try to play out from the back and getting ourselves into trouble with short passing? That's why the opposition closes down, apparently.
Okay. How long have we got? I mean, first, I don't think that we've been in trouble from playing it out from the back that's resulted in a goal. Sometimes we miss passes, and that's normal. We can make mistakes, and that's normal. But at the same time, if you just line it up and kick it down the pitch and fight for it, you can equally lose the ball a lot of time. For me, I like to try to control the game and make the decisions ourselves. That means that we have the ball. I think if we just line up and kick it down and fight for it, more often than not, we'll lose a lot of those, and we hand over the initiative to the opposition. So at the same time, since I've come in, I know that we're scoring around 2.5 goals per game, which I think is attacking. I think it was about 1.2 goals per game before that, for a large period before that. I know that we have the most final third entries in the league, the most touches in opponents' box in the league. So I know that sometimes the build-up feels slow, and sometimes it is slow, and it needs to speed up, and we need to not turn down forward passes when they're on. But at the same time, we have so many talented attacking players, like you've mentioned, Ruben and Cal and Cairo, Carl Whatton, and these talented players. They operate best with space. The only way to achieve a lot of space is by bringing opposition players out and towards us. So we kind of want to coax them towards us so they get more space. If we don't do that and just kick it, numerically, they have a lot of players and there's less space for our lads to operate in. So for me, that's how I've always seen it. I want my team to have the ball. I want us to make the decisions. If that means that we have to take some risks from the back, so be it. I believe that we have the players of the quality that can do it. You know, Kyle is here. He grew up and spent his entire life in a Premier League club learning how to play in this way, and he's more than comfortable to do it, as are many of the other players that we've got. And I think over a long period of time to play like this is going to produce a brand of football that I think we can really enjoy to watch. But we're still progressing. I know that there's moments where we can do it quicker. I know that. But but certainly I believe in this way of playing.
Kyle,
That's the short answer, by the way.
Kyle, we'll bring you in on that as the gaffer's mentioned. You grew up obviously playing through Newcastle's academy, which was a similar style. How comfortable are you and the lads with the way that we're trying to play this season?
I think for me personally, obviously I'm comfortable, as I say, growing up with that sort of style, and I think that what we do day in, day out sort of emphasises that way in which we want to play, so everyone's comfortable in doing it in training and transferring it into games. It just comes natural. So I think the players that we have, like we've mentioned, everyone's more than comfortable to play out from the back and build up how we want to play.
Great stuff. Right, another tactical one. This one seems to come up every single fans forum that we ever have, but we'll keep with tradition and ask it again. Doug Bottrell and Neil Gribben. Why do we never leave one or even two players upfield when defending corners? If we did, the opposition would need 2 or 3 defenders back to defend. That's fewer bodies in the box with numerical advantage to Notts. Ian.
Yeah, you could do that. Like, I don't say that doing that is wrong, and some days we can leave players up the pitch. If you were to leave 3 players up the pitch, they leave 4, but that also leaves a lot of space in our box for them to attack, and I think sometimes a lot of space in our defensive box can be a danger. I think this season so far, just the one set piece that we conceded against, I believe, correct? Yeah, I think so. We don't count that Torquay one down here. That was just pure disaster. But other than that, I think it's just one set piece against. So I think we're defending them quite well. I think that leaving players up is an option. It doesn't really matter to me. I just don't want to see the ball in our goal. And so far we've been doing that. There's always options to change, but I don't. Yeah, I see the most important thing is that we reduce the space for the opponent to attack.
We've been missing obviously Tyrese Palmer and Lewis Knight since pre-season. Andy Esom asks, will either of them be loaned out to give them game time as they try and reach full fitness again?
Yeah, both, I would think. We actually spoke to Lewis today. We've had loads of interest in Lewis from a couple of clubs, mainly around the league below. And obviously he got that setback against Boston. And I thought he was doing really well in the pre-season. There's plenty to add with him. He's got pace, very direct with his running. But it's tough when you've come into a team, hasn't quite got the run, started really well in pre-season and then has missed a lot of match time. I think a short-term loan for him would benefit him massively, so we'll look to do that. But he's still a couple of weeks away from full fitness. Tyrese also has suffered an injury and is just building up. As soon as he's back to fitness, we'll get him out to a lower league club, give him the minutes and see how he progresses. But the most important thing is that even if they go out on loan, they still get the training time with us and they still get developed in our way. It's just for the matches that they go out.
Tell us a bit more about Tyrese, because I know a lot of the people in here tonight will be regulars at youth games, so a lot of them will have seen him. But what did you see in him which convinced you and the club that he's worth a pro deal?
I mean, he scored goals, which helps him. Having a striker that can score goals is handy. And he's got good physicality. He's got good movement off the ball to get goals, and his finishing was good. There's still loads and loads of things for him to work on. In my opinion, he's only just kind of breaking into the first team from a regular training perspective. He didn't train that much with the first team last year. He came in at the back end of the season when I came in, and I think therefore he needs a little bit more time. With some of the younger ones that we've got now, probably seen some of them in the pre-season games, we're trying to elevate them a little bit earlier now to give them that preparation way in advance so that they're even better prepared when they finally get the option of a pro deal. But Tyrese is there, he's got plenty to work with, but I think his directness and ability to score goals, but like we say, he needs to go out and do that on loan first.
Yeah, fingers crossed we'll be able to see him at his best very soon. Ian Spencer, do not still have a scouting network on the non-league circuit, and will the club's recruitment model stay the same if we get into the EFL? Personally, I prefer it. That's from Ian Spencer.
Yeah, we have. I mean, we've got we've got a good team behind us that's providing a lot of information around the players, both non-league and in our league and other leagues around. So we're constantly identifying talents in the league below, under 23 players. We've got, like you saw, we needed to bring in some loans. We managed to do that quickly. That was purely based on the work that people were doing behind the scenes to prepare lists of players that might be interesting for us. And I think going forward, to have a really competent model for scouting, an idea of how you want to recruit, where you want to recruit from, is massive. No matter what league you're in, you need a competent scouting network. I think the worst thing you can do is just go off of agents and suggestions and things like that. It's always a slippery slope. So I think having a good system behind us is what we want, and to keep progressing that through the leagues as we go up is going to be important.
How much is it an ongoing process? Because we obviously saw Cal Roberts come into the club from a lower league side halfway through the season a couple of years ago. How much is it an ongoing process? How often are you looking at players, talking to the recruitment team about potential additions throughout the season?
I think we generally have guys from the recruitment in once, twice a week, where we're kind of just catching up really with where we're at, what we need. Sometimes the conversations are short because we don't need anybody. Sometimes they're far more in-depth because we're certainly in the pre-season when we were looking at a lot of different players. I was in here in the off-season most days, really meeting with them and trying to build the squad. So it's I would say that all the non-league stuff below us kind of has been a bit disjointed because COVID disrupted so many of the leagues below us. So many of them players haven't played that much football, but obviously now as the leagues are restarting, they are leagues that we want to have an eye on and look at some up-and-coming talent in those leagues.
Last week, obviously, we had to go into the loan market for two players at pretty short notice. You know, how much did the structure that we've sort of developed under this ownership and this recruitment model help with getting not only people through the door quickly, but two quality additions, as I think they showed on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's important. It's important to have a network and it's important to have a system in place. And we've got players in positions, and you know, it's quite unfortunate to have 3 central defenders injured in 1 week. We hope that doesn't happen again.
And your first choice keeper as well.
And my first choice keeper, yeah, absolutely. It's not the best week to have, but we were prepared for that. You know, what I didn't want to do was bring in a lot of loans early in the season, fill out the squad with maybe guys that aren't signed for the club, that aren't going to play the minutes, that then become frustrated because they're not getting what they want out of the loan move, and we're just padding the squad out just in case. But instead, we've been prepared that if something happens, we can move quick. And we did that, and I think having a good system in place behind us was crucial for that.
Sticking with the recruitment theme and bringing Doyler in, Andrew Semper asks, do you still have contacts in Ireland? For instance, you and Doyle came from Sligo and Paddy Madden from Bohemians.
Yeah, it's, obviously speak to quite a lot of people over there and watch a lot of games, and myself and the gaffer, there's been loads of players that have popped up the last sort of 6 months that sort of identified and keeping an eye on, and probably things are ongoing, so we'll see how things are, but certainly loads of contacts over there and watching the league all the time.
Great stuff. Again on recruitment, but from a different sort of point of view, Malcolm Bullard asks, can you advise what happened with trying to keep Mark Ellis and Calvin Miller from last season?
Yeah, I mean, when we first met with Mark, he was still under contract at Tranmere, so we had to wait for their decision on release or retain. And to be honest, he went away, and we left it open. We were working hard with another central defender, but we hadn't quite closed that one out yet. But I think we'll all agree that was a great addition. And you know, by the time that we'd done the work with Kyle, Mark Ellis had a brilliant offer from Barrow, one that there's absolutely no chance that we were going to be able to compete with economically. And in fairness to Mark, he really enjoyed it. He spoke only great things about the club, but where they were training was 20 minutes from his house. It was good for his family and it was good for him. He got a 2-year deal back in the Football League, so it wasn't something that we really could compete with. The same with Calvin Miller. Calvin Miller we wanted to keep. We made an offer, but I'll be honest, we were absolutely outbid in a big way by Chesterfield, and it was not something that we could see was possible. I know that as much as we want players, we cannot risk the economic future of the club by doing things that are reckless or unstable. So for me, Calvin was a great player, did a great job for me at the back end of the season, but we couldn't keep him because somebody offered far better, and therefore we go into the market, we recruit, we develop, and we do what we think is best for the club.
Great. Andy Easom asks, Gaffer, could you please outline the role of Alex Clapham, who joined us as first team coach recently?
Yeah, I think that we probably, everyone in here agrees that set pieces is an area that we wanted to develop at. It's an area that's big in the league. A lot of teams rely on it massively. I think we conceded too many goals from set plays last year. We scored a few as well, certainly with Mark towards the end of the season. I think we've started really well this season with several goals from corners again. Kyle's helped us with that massively as he gets his head on everything. But we wanted somebody that could dedicate a lot of time to this, because myself and Doyle are obviously busy with all the details around the team and the training on a daily basis and a lot of the analysis work. So Alex came in, and his remit is to identify set pieces, opposition set pieces, and develop a system so that we can become more successful with set pieces. So he's focusing mainly his work on that area.
Sticking on the subject of set pieces, a question for you, Kyle. Are the players given a library of corner routines, both attacking and defensively, each week?
No, not really. We have a set few that we work on defensively. Obviously, you can see what organisation, how we set up. And then attacking-wise, I think Alex obviously identifies through the week the sort of weaknesses that they have defensively when we play teams, and that sort of areas that we look to exploit through the week. So Thursdays and Fridays he'll pull a few of us for 10 minutes at a time, and we'll do one or two routines that hopefully work on a Saturday, which have the past few weeks.
How much do the players value having somebody like Alex who's dedicated to that role? Because obviously we see it more and more in Europe and in the Premier League, but at this level I think it's still quite rare. So, what do you think of it and the contributions that it can bring to the squad?
Like the gaffer said, it's important. A lot of teams in this league are big, strong, and they do try and win games on set plays. So I think it is important for us to be just as good, if not better, and to have a set play coach. It's just another positive to have that other teams haven't got. So it's something that we're looking to use obviously every week, and it's hopefully going to pay off a lot more like it has done over the last couple of weeks.
Great stuff. Matthew Taylor asks, Doyle, how have you found the transition from playing to coaching?
Yeah, it's been great, to be honest with you. I've obviously had a long career playing wise, so I was very lucky to get this opportunity, and I'm really enjoying it. It's been great. The gaffer's been absolutely brilliant with me and learning every day, which is the most important thing. I couldn't have asked for someone better to learn off. It's been great for me, so as I say, really enjoying it. Do I miss the playing? I do a little bit, but I haven't so far, and as I say, I just want to get as good as I can at what I'm doing now.
You obviously played under Ian and then helped him out towards the end of last season. How much do you think it helps you in your role that you've actually played in that system and you understand from a player's point of view what Ian's asking of his teams?
Yeah, I mean, it was very fortunate when things started to turn for us and we started to hit some form, and I managed to get more of an insight walking around the gaffer and being involved in what was going on. It was great for me, so it was just natural then when I stopped playing, and then the role I walked straight into it. It was great, so it did help massively. And now with the lads that have come in, you can help them and try and obviously talk to them what's expected and what we want from them. It obviously made it a lot easier for me.
Yeah. Andy Easom asks, in the FA Trophy / FA Cup, Ian, we'll be playing in both of those competitions before long. Are we likely to be playing our strongest 11, or will there be a sprinkling of the rest of the squad given a chance to get some game time?
I don't know my strongest 11 yet. It changes every week, so don't want to tell you that I'm going to use my strongest 11 because there's a whole strong squad of players, but we'll definitely rotate round. I think when the cup games come, it's a great opportunity to rotate, rest some players, give players windows of opportunity, but we want to go as far as we can in every game, and I'll always put a team out that I believe's capable of winning the game. So I don't call it I don't think we always play with it. Like the strongest 11 changes week to week based on who we play and what's happened in the last game. So we'll put a strong team out, and but certainly we need to rotate in them moments.
How much would you value a cup run? Obviously, the FA Trophy is slightly down the pecking order. We all know that, but the FA Cup is potentially massive revenue generator for the club, and also it can do wonders. We saw Lincoln had a massive run, didn't they, a few years ago, and we saw how that galvanised the club and sent them higher up the leagues.
Yeah, I mean, cup runs are great. I think I had a couple of good runs in Norway. We made the semi-finals twice, sadly missed out both times, but it was great to get that far in the competition and see the energy that it created within the club. as you're progressing through. So I know that if you get on a good run, and certainly you meet some teams from leagues higher, it does generate some excitement, and we all want to test ourselves against the best. So if we can have an FA Cup run and go and compete against teams in the league above, I think everybody would enjoy that possibility. So I think it's great for us if we can do that, and it adds something to the season as well.
Kyle, there was a really interesting quote from you when you joined us, actually. You said that this season you're targeting the double, you want the league and the FA trophy. Just tell us a little bit more about why that's your desire.
FA Cup, then.
I think, well, you come to a club like this, you just want to win football games, and I think with the size of the club, we're probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in the FA Trophy competition. So I think it's something that we can realistically aim for along with the league, and I think obviously if you win both, it's been a great season, and you'll win majority of games, and it's going to be good to watch.
Great stuff. Big question for Doyle here. This comes from Alec Walker. Would you leave to become a full-time manager if a club came in for you right now, or are you happy to gain some experience first?
Yeah. No, it's do you know what? I'm not in that position, you know. So you don't know unless you get that opportunity. But as I say, I'm really happy here. I do. I love it. It's been as everybody knows, it's been, when I came to the club, it was in a bad place really, and it only got worse over the next 6 months. But ever since the new owners and that have come in, the club's had a real lift, and at the toughest of times, it kind of shows what this football club is all about, and all the supporters and that pulling together, because we just suffered a massive blow and a relegation, and that for a football club like this, it was devastating. And at that time, the ownership, we were nearly going into administration. We thought we were going out of business. All these people at the club, kind of pulled together, kept the players going, tried to help people around the club, got them paid, and it's something you never forget. And then for us to get new owners and that to come in, that was one of the best days, like in your career, the playing career, was just to see everybody was going to be looked after. In a sense, the fans had the direction again. We had some owners, we thought we were going to go out of business. So to be here and go through all of that and now be in this position, I'll be honest with you, it'd take a lot for me to walk away from the club. So I'm really happy, as I said, and the gaffer's been great with me. So I hope that answers the question a bit, I
think
Stay in pop.
Just to follow up on that dialogue, I mean, you've obviously played here for a long time now, worked here for a long time. You've also played for a lot of big clubs with very passionate fan bases, lots of different ownership models, I would imagine. How would you sort of surmise the infrastructure that we have here at the club now, from top to bottom, really, in terms of hopefully getting back into the EFL and kicking on from there?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think the club is, that's, as you say, the structure that's in place now, recruitment, the owners, the way they're trying to do things, it's ahead of probably most of the clubs I was at, and, I've no doubt about it. There's a lot of clubs that are well behind in what we're doing, and I think the way the club here is doing it's very forward thinking, and I've said it all along, whether I'm here or not, I think it's only a matter of time before this club starts working its way back up through the divisions. I think the hardest division is going to be this one to get out of. I think once we get back into the Football League, I think the club will, there's obviously more opportunities when you go into League 2, 4 teams get automatically get promoted. In this one, it's one automatic and one playoffs. It's so hard to get out, so competitive. But I think this one will be the hardest to get out of. But then once we get out, I genuinely think this club will be a top-end League 1 club by what we've got going on behind all the football, with the recruitment, the owners, the way they want to do things. I think this club is going to be a top-end League 1 club, and not just for 1 year. I think it'll be for a long time.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Right, a bit of a fun one now for all three of you. I'll go to you first, Ian, and Kyle last. If you were given £1 million to spend on the club, not yourself, but you were not allowed to spend it on new players. Okay, so you got £1 million, but you can't spend it on new players. So you can, for example, backroom staff, academy facilities, and you can spend it on more than one thing. So you can spread your money around, but not on players. What would it be?
Alice is pointing at herself over there.
Pay rise.
Facilities for sure.
Which ones? Which ones would you go for?
Yeah, like training ground and training pitches, like the way that we want to play. We need a nice pitch, so that's important. We can't play on on a cabbage patch, but we do play on a few of them this season. But we don't want to play on them at home. So probably facilities. And I think if you want to develop players, I think it's really important to have the right infrastructure around them in terms of staff and how we work with them. So probably as much as I could put in to give the players what they need to develop, I would look at.
Just before I come to Doyle, we've had a few questions about the training ground situation. Obviously, Nottingham Forest, we've got a great deal with them at the minute where we get to use the home road facility, which I think you'd agree is a fantastic place to work. Yeah,
it's fantastic. Yeah, it's way above the level. I think we're very fortunate to have such a good training facility, and I think we've got a good dialogue with them. We've been doing some work together with them with some in-house training with their 23s. Where we can bring them in and we can work on some tactical things. So we've built that bridge a little bit, and I think it's been really positive. And I can see that they can see that we take care very much of that facility, and they can see the benefits of working together with us. So we all hope that that's going to be a long-standing thing that we can maintain there, because it's so important for us if we're going to develop as a football club to have that training facility in place.
Doyle, where's your £1 million going?
I'll be honest with you, it's a tough one. I think you'd be probably very lucky to get a top training ground for that type of money now with the price of property and stuff like that. But I think off the top of my head, I'd probably put it back in towards recruitment, more staff, and have more, that end of thing, and go right into that. Because as we're seeing with people like Carl Roberts and Ruben Rodriguez, the type of players that are out there now, the more people, eyes, ears, and with all the technology now that you can have looking and finding these type of gems as a football club, they're obviously very valuable now to our football club assets wise. If somebody wanted to come in and buy them, it'd take a hell of a lot of money to get them out of here. So I think with £1 million, I'd certainly be putting it back in around sort of recruitment wise and every way possible.
Kyle, give us a player's perspective. £1 million.
I don't really know how far £1 million would go with sort of facilities wise, but the only real thing I can think of is maybe having a sort of dedicated training building somewhere away from here, sort of with good recovery stuff like swimming pool, saunas, jacuzzi, state-of-the-art gym. But like I say, I don't really know how far £1 million will stretch with all that sort of stuff.
Has anyone got £1 million going spare? We'd give it.
Sounds like he's thought about it though.
Well, I think just going back to that as well, as a football club, when you're bringing people in to try and get them to come to this club, it kind of sells itself. Like the amount of players, Kyle, I'm sure he'll tell you he's played here, and when you're getting these lads in, it's nearly 50% of the job when you can show them a stadium like that, the fan base. And then if you do have a sort of training base, you can bring them down to it as well. It sells getting these players to the club. They think, I want to go there and I want to work there every day because they've got a great gym, nice changing rooms, facilities, and recovery areas and gyms and that. It's a big thing to get players to football clubs, I think, 'cause that's where they're coming to work every day.
Yeah, and we do hear it in the new signing interviews nearly every time, don't we? The players come here and think, wow, it's an amazing welcome that they get, and the facilities are brilliant. So I think we are lucky to have what we have, to be fair, but £1 million would be nice if anyone's got one going spare. Question from Tyler White, and this is for Kyle. A club like Notts County playing in non-league comes with big expectations from the fans. How do you feel as a squad and playing staff? How do you manage the expectation of having to win every game?
Well, I think everyone coming here, everyone knows the sort of expectations that yourselves as fans put on us, and I think every fan wants to win every single game. I think we all know it's not going to happen, but if we win the fair majority of games this season, then we're gonna hopefully go up. So I think dealing with the expectation is just something you've got to deal with if you want to be the top club at sort of any level. It's just something that you've got to have within your character, and I think all the lads that the staff you have brought in, I think everyone knows the expectations and can handle it pretty well.
Great stuff. Another question for all three of you. We'll go with Ian first again. Bob Staines, who is the most underrated player you've ever worked or played with?
Didn't play with many.
That was more for Doyle.
Yeah, I knew that. That I've worked with. I've worked with some good players, but but you want an underrated.
Underrated.
If I tell you some underrated ones, they're going to be Norwegian or Swedish players that no one knows, and that's boring. But I could give you ones that I think in our squad that I've worked with that are maybe underrated. That's maybe more interesting. I would say in our squad, underrated, Adam Chickson. I think absolutely has never let me down since I've been here. Trains unbelievably well every single day. Absolute professional. And always contributes in a positive way to the team. So in our squad, he's perhaps more underrated. Carl Whatton, massively underrated. Sometimes people, if he doesn't score, he's maybe judged as not being a goal scorer, but he scored plenty this season already. He scored a lot last season, but his work off the ball is absolutely unbelievable, what he contributes to the team. So maybe Carl Whatton from our squad. And I won't bore you with any Swedish players' names because it's not going to mean anything. So I'll just work with our squad.
I think you're underestimating the knowledge of Scandinavian football within the room.
Maybe there's some Swedish football buffs here. I don't know.
We'll let you off the hook though.
Yeah.
Doyle, most underrated player that you've worked with?
Genie, probably off the top of my head, probably Mark McNulty when I played with Coventry, but I'd had 2 spells with him before that. I played up Portsmouth and Sheffield United, and he was probably a little bit underrated. Did brilliant for us at all 3 clubs. He ended up in, as people know here, at Coventry, he became a top player for us at Coventry, but he was really underrated. I think he had a little spell at Portsmouth where he done really well and he got injured, but then went back to Sheffield United, kind of underrated. But you could see every day in training the quality of the lad, and you knew he just needed opportunity of game time. So that's why he sort of worked so hard to get him down to Coventry. And in the end, when he came down, he was the difference. It was probably getting promoted. He ended up scoring 25 goals. So probably him off the top of my head that people might be a bit aware of.
Kyle?
Haven't got a clue. I'd probably go just like Battle Gaffer says with our squad, like what's someone who scores goals, but even when he's not scoring goals, he's running a hell of a lot off the ball when we get the stats on a Monday morning. We've got Ruben as well, who runs an unbelievable amount for the team. Carl, who's levels above this level, who's got unbelievable amounts of ability that can go a lot higher. I mean, you could go through 1 to 25 squad numbers, I think, with the lads here, and a lot of them are probably underrated and do a really good job for the team.
Great stuff. Doyle, you're probably going to hate this question, but I'm going to ask you it anyway. Bob Staines, Doyle, what was your best ever performance?
When I went in goal. I was just ashamed that there was no one there to watch. It was, I always remember looking around.
Who was watching on the stream?
Yeah. I always remember looking around and bloody Joe, the 2 Joes, I think, were up in the stand behind me, and the cop there in the Brighton Heart laughing. It was kind of snowing and having a laugh at them. But yeah, as I say, that was funny. But no, probably playing with, I don't know, don't know my best performance, probably results that stand out the most is played at Old Trafford twice with Leeds and Coventry, and being fortunate enough to win there, and great days when you're not expected to. So days like that stand out, and then obviously getting promotions and things are always special memories. So yeah, loads that sort of achieved everything that I could playing wise, for the kind of levels that I was at. So very, very happy with how I ended up.
And you happy with the Schmeichel Doyle nickname, or do you not like that?
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, nice.
Ian, this is a question from Martin DeBell. Ian, how important is the quality of the training ground, and have not got any plans to purchase it, secure it on a longer lease? So it's a bit of a tie-in with what we were talking about earlier, but and I know that's a bit above your pay station. But
probably, yeah. I mean, it's really important. Like I said, I think when players come down, even like the loan players now they've come from Sheffield Wednesday and from Sunderland, and they're coming to the National League, but then they come in and they see the stadium, then we go down to the training ground and they see the training ground, and it's fantastic. And I think they realise we're part of something that's really good here. So it's really important for us. I don't know if we've got any plans to purchase it. I don't think I can answer that, but certainly to extend the lease longer. We're in dialogue all the time with Forest about that, and hopefully we will do.
Great. Another question for you, Kyle. What's the difference between the Talkies squad that you played in last season compared to the lads in the not squad? Do you see the not squad going all the way this season and getting promoted?
I think the main difference is style of play. Last season was quite direct back to front, but still with that aspect of attacking football and wanting to score goals. And this season, obviously, it's more of a possession-based attacking style of football. There's a lot of similarities with the players and the sort of quality that we have here and we had there last year, and a lot of the lads last year have sort of moved on from Torquay. But yeah, I don't see why we couldn't win the league. I mean, I don't think I would have come here if I didn't think that we could win the league. I think the quality we've got here is by far the best in the league. I think it's just a matter of time before we start clicking and really showing that for 90-minute periods of time in games. I think that's when you'll see the best of us.
I'm not trying to trap you into speaking badly about your former club or anything, but how much more enjoyable is it when you play out from the back, when you've got that style of play, whereas you're not going too direct? Is that something that's really tangible throughout the season? You enjoy your football more? You enjoy training more?
Definitely. Like I said, the facilities here are a lot better as well, so you enjoy your everyday life here a lot more than I sort of did last year. I think obviously the main thing is winning games of football. That's the most enjoyable thing for me, playing out from the back. I get a lot of the ball, so I do obviously enjoy that side. Being a little bit selfish, I do enjoy getting on the ball a lot. But I think that the main thing, I think everyone will say the same, that winning games of football is the most enjoyable thing. It doesn't matter if you win a scrappy 1-0 or you batter someone 5-0. I think at the end of the day, winning games of football is the most enjoyable.
Doyle, another one for you from Martin DeBell again. Are the training methods much different to the other clubs you've been at?
Yeah, definitely. I think the gaffer's training's all geared up towards what he wants to do on a match, like basically from Monday to Friday. I mean, the training here is probably, I'm sure Kyle will say, it's probably been the most enjoyable. You know, obviously I was finishing up in my career, but some of the most enjoyable training I've done. I loved it every day coming in, and but everything was geared and related towards what we were trying to do on a Saturday or what we were playing against, which is, it's hard to kind of get, I'd say it's hard to get that mix as a manager, trying to keep everybody enjoying training and being happy, because as a player, when you kind of always dread Thursday and Friday, because it was all, you know, a lot of standing around, stop still, opposition are going to do this and that, but you know, the gaffer sessions were always really intense and enjoyable, as I say, and it was all, you knew what you were playing against and what you were trying to do in the game, so I really enjoyed it. It was brilliant.
Ian, when you first joined, you were bemoaning quite fairly the lack of time you were getting on the training ground. How nice is it now to be into a more normal schedule and being able to impart some of the methods that you obviously were successful with in Östersund and your previous clubs?
Yeah, I mean, how I work, it's really important to be on the pitch and coaching and working with the players. So that's my favourite bit. You know, of course, I love the matches and certainly love winning the matches, but I love the daily contact with the players and working with them. And yeah, so when I first came in, it was quite an unusual situation where we were playing a game within 24 hours and then another one on the Tuesday, another one on Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. And we were basically recovering and then preparing for the next one, but with minimal time on the pitch. And it's hard to get new ideas across through those moments because you want to impart your way of doing things with the players. But I think it was the week before we played Torquay, we kind of got the first week of training, and then I felt we drew 2-2 there. They mugged us off with a last minute goal in the 96th minute, and we drew 2-2. But I felt like that was a little bit of a turning point in how we wanted to play, and we then I got some weeks on the pitch and felt once we got that, it felt more like my team then. You know, certainly from the Sutton game on, I felt like it was more how I wanted it to look. But that was a big part of that, was being on the pitch with them. Yeah.
Great. Cheeky question from Tom Stevens here for Kyle. Skipper, how many pranks have you and Cal pulled so far, and is the gaffer off limits?
I think wherever you go, I think the gaffer's going to be off limits. I don't think you'll last long if you're pranking him. But no, I think we always have a laugh every day, sort of thing. We don't really do too many pranks through the days, but we all have a good laugh.
Generally, what sort of personality would you give the squad as a whole? I know there's a lot of different characters in there, but in terms of the squads that you've been a part of, you know, in terms of personality levels and energy around the place, would you put it up there?
No, definitely. I think we have a good mix of personalities and the way people are day in, day out. I think it's important if you want to be in a successful team that you have that togetherness, and I think we definitely have that here.
Great. We're going to be breaking after this one. Last one's for Ian. What would be Plan B if Kyle Whatton was to get injured? Oh, Ian, this is from Ian Birchnell as well, by the way. Ian, you're in the room, I think, aren't you, Ian? Let's have a wave. There he is, the second Ian Birchnell.
Great name.
What would be the Plan B?
Plan B if Kyle Whatton was injured?
Yeah.
Put another player there. We got a lot of good players. You know, Ruben could play up front. Cara Mitchell, Elisha. We have good options. So Kyle Wotton's very, very important to us. But you know, we've also got, we can play different ways and we can play with different personnel and different players. So of course you never want to lose your key players at any moment. But certainly we that will happen at some point during the year, I'm sure. And then we'll be able to adapt around it. Certainly, Cairo Mitchell's played as a 9. Ruben could play there as a 9, and Elisha with work can do that as well.
Tell us a bit more, just before we do break, tell us a bit more about Cairo, because I know that you've really enjoyed working with him so far, haven't you, since he come in?
I'd say firstly about Cairo is his work rate and the way he applies himself in training every day is fantastic. I can see that he's going to improve because of that. He's quick, dynamic, strong. He has a lot of good attributes. It's now for him just about bringing them together, understanding it in the context of the game and when to use his strengths at the key points. But he has so many good qualities, a good finisher as well. So it's just bringing it all together in game situations, and that's what we'll work with. But there's so much potential there, and that's what we saw when we saw him playing, certainly for Kings Lynn. We saw a lot of potential there, and that's, of course, why we brought him in.
Great. Right, we're going to break for 20 minutes or so. That should be the end of the predetermined questions. So have a think about any questions from the floor. I do have a long list of other questions which I've not managed to squeeze into that first half, so don't worry if your question's not been asked. I might still get it. 15 minutes or so, bars there, toilets just down the corridor. We'll see you soon. Right, who's got a question for us? Don't be shy. Who's going to be the first? Put your hands up. Alice is going to come round with the mic.
Sorry, this one. Having watched the home matches this season, and I know you've been asked this a lot of times, Ian, we appear a second half team. How do you go about resolving that?
I don't know that it's so big a problem when we win and we've won. Of course, we won 3 of 4 games and drawn 1. So I think in general we've performed pretty well. We've been a bit too slow to start. I agree. We'd like to come out of the traps with a bit more intensity and a bit more purpose, and I think that's just what we need to do. We maybe need to just take a few more risks and play forwards a little bit braver in the first part of the game. But at the same time, I do know because of the volume of ball that we have and the amount we make the opposition run, it's normal that the game opens up in the second half and we create more chances in the second half. So I do know time favours the way that we play, and the game opens a little bit, and with the players that we've got, we do generally look better in the second half. But for sure, I would like us to come out of the traps and show it from minute 1 and just be a bit braver. But I do know that if we get an early goal, I know that the game will open quicker as well, so getting that early goal would help us.
Who's next? Melvin. Alice is getting her steps into
Yes, go on, Alice.
Get me ready.
Hi guys. Looking at our disciplinary record so far this season, I believe we've got 18 yellow cards in 8 games. We're losing one of our asset players on Saturday. Now it wouldn't be so bad if we had the players were getting booked for things like Doyley used to do. Now that's fine. You know, at least he let them know he was there for that reason, and we benefited from that. But what I'm saying is now, it's descent.
Yeah.
Now, what you're going to be doing if this is going to carry on later on in the season? What do you think you're going to do, boss?
Yeah, well, we've discussed it, and we know that Callie's out, and I think 2, maybe 3 of them are for descent, which is not what we want. We understand that tackles and breaking counter attacks are an important part of the game as well, and we're going to get yellow cards for that. That's normal. But it's the ones that are needless ones we need to cut out. So we talk about it, and we certainly don't want it. I'm sure there's some consequence in the fines pot for unnecessary yellow cards as well, but we want to cut that out because we want everybody available on the pitch.
Thanks for the question, Melvin. Anybody else? Who's next? At the back there.
Got one question. What I'd like to know is, what difference does it make to you as a head coach working for owners that actually understand football in detail? Because normally that's not the case.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, obviously, like when I first knew that they would like me to be the coach, I went down to London and met them, and I was impressed with the volume of knowledge that they had. I mean, they had a lot of my back catalogue and a lot of my old games and the numbers, and they knew exactly who I was as a coach, and that was important to me. At the same time, they understand a lot of kind of football concepts and how football clubs should be grown, but they're new to the ownership as well, and they want me and Doyler and the rest of the guys to also be a part of how we grow the club. So I think it's really important to have people that understand football above you. I have worked at clubs abroad, and I've had mixed bags of ownership, some good and some bad, and certainly having stable people above you is massive.
Does that put you under extra pressure because they understand what should be happening?
No, not really. I think it helps because I think they understand the game, and they understand that there is a random nature of football as well, that you can't control everything. But I think that they've got enough, and I've seen already the numbers this season to know that we're moving in the right direction, and that they believe in what we're doing. So I think that's important, and I think they're stable enough to know that seasons will go up and down, but creating a more stable outlook for me means that a more stable outlook for the team as well, and that's important.
Thank you for your question. Was there one over here? Yeah, sorry, Alice. It's like doing the London Marathon, this.
Couldn't do that.
Alice is on hand to answer any club-related questions, by the way. I wouldn't ask any of these guys to do that, but no. If you do have any burning queries, Alice is on hand.
Doyler, how does it feel to know the cop is still singing your song on a match day? Obviously now you've gone to coaching, but there's still that connection there.
Yeah, I think it's only for Jim. It's not really for me, but no, it's great. Yeah, it's great, but times have changed now, so it's maybe should give it to somebody else. But yeah, I do appreciate it, so it's great.
Do we think the song's going anywhere, guys? I don't think it is. No, probably not. No chance. Who's next? Nice easy one for you there, Al. Go on, Alex, fire away, mate.
Ian, what would you say the standard of National League football is like compared to the standard of football in Scandinavia that you're used to?
Really good question. It's different. It's very different. The top end of the top end of the Scandinavian leagues is very high. Like I have to say, going and planning, and for me, like when I was in Sweden, I was in a small club really. Although the club had done unbelievably well and it had performed excellently in Europa League, it was a small club in terms of Swedish football, and we were having to go and play teams like Malmo, who everybody knows about. I think they're playing in Europe this week, but teams like Malmo is going and playing 30,000. Every player's an international. They wouldn't look out of place playing championship football. So then the level's extremely high. So very challenging from a tactical perspective. I think I came up against big crowds and big top international players. But at the same time, the National League's very different. It's more intense. It's more games. It's more physical. So it's a different kind of football. But at the same time, the players certainly that we have here, extremely talented. So yeah, it's difficult to compare. Very different styles. But yeah, I would say certainly I got tested a lot against some of the big clubs out there.
Good question. Thanks for that, Alex. Who's next? Brennan at the back, yeah.
So one to Kyle first of all. What's your favourite thing about Nottingham so far? And then one for Ian. One of your trialists, Will Hondermack, signed for Barnsley this year and played in the Championship earlier the other week. Did Notts ever offer him a deal, or how did that kind of one end up?
I'll go first. It's a good question. I think that it's nice to be back in a city again. Been at Talkies for 3 years. It's quite a small place, so there's plenty to do, and there's a lot of things I can do, especially when my missus comes down. So there's a lot of things to do outside of football, which is nice for the sort of social aspect of things.
Go on, Ian.
Yeah, Will was a good player. We saw him grow a little bit while he was here. He didn't play so much at Harrogate the season before, and obviously, so we didn't have many reference points on how he was in a game. So we brought him in to have a good look at him. He was progressing quite nicely, but at the same time, we're in dialogue with Matty Palmer for a similar midfield role, and I felt like it was important that we brought Matty in. I think everyone agrees that he's been a really good addition to the squad. So once we signed Matty, and also we knew about the 5 subs and this ridiculous 5 sub rule that we were only going to get, meant that some players that we were bringing in that maybe would be on the periphery might not get the minutes that they want. Whilst he was here, he got offered the opportunity to go and sign for Barnsley, and when he went there, the idea was for him to be in the 23s and just get those match minutes. I think because we don't really have that reserve team and the opportunity, if he's not playing here, to play, he saw those 100% game minutes, whether that's first team at Barnsley or 23s, as the most important. But he really enjoyed his experience here. We've kept a dialogue, and who knows, he enjoyed it here. If he progresses in the right way, that can be one on the list for a midfielder further down the line for sure.
Any more? Who's next? Loz, I knew we could rely on you.
It's off Facebook.
Oh, right, okay.
Could I ask Ian if he really does know what they're worth?
Yeah, I got an idea, I think. But I think we have quite a few players that are worth a little bit as well. So they're 2 of them, but there's plenty more in there as well.
Thank you, Loz. Who's next? Straight back over there, please, Al.
Go on, Alice.
Evening, guys. Just a statement, really. I'd like us to try and work the keepers a bit more from distance. I just wanted to know what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, we can. I would say quite a low percentage of goals are scored from 20 metres out. So it's always worth doing, because when you shoot from distance, if you do that enough and accurately, then their defenders come out and that might open some space. So, and we should try and pull the trigger when we're in and around range. But I think most goals are scored one-touch finish inside the box. So it's definitely important that we get into areas where we can then finish inside the box. But definitely some shots from range. We all like to see a worldie, don't we? We all like to see a screamer going into the top corner every now and again. Doyle's had a few. Hey, Ruben shot from his own half last game, but that didn't work, so we rein him in a little bit now. But yeah, a few more worldie goals will never go amiss, for sure.
Kyle, do you have a 30-yarder in your locker, or?
He's tried a couple.
I've tried a couple, so maybe we'll see.
He gets forward, he hears the crowd say shoot, and he pulls the trigger, and I've said, whoa.
Got one in the... oh, sorry, Pete was drinking his pint. I thought you wanted to ask a question there, Pete. Who's next? Who's got a question for the guys? Oh, sorry.
Hi, guys. What's the reasoning for bringing in the lone goalkeeper when we've got a quite adequate goalkeeper in Brooks, which I feel is a good goalkeeper?
Yeah, good question. Tiernan's a good goalkeeper. He's gone out on loan at Worksop. He's done well in that period, but based on what we saw and based on the fact also that... So, Sam took his injury. When he got his injury, we're not 100% sure how long he's going to be out. I hope it's not too long, but it can be 4 or 5 games. And with those kind of injuries, it's not impossible to get a setback along the way. That can happen. We hope that he's quickly back. But at that point, we only have Tiernan. Even if we brought him back on loan, we run the risk. So we definitely needed reinforcements. We have 4 goalkeepers back end of last season. We let Luke Steele and Luke Pilling go. For me, I wanted to see if Tiernan was ready to take the next step and be a solid number 2. Until we see more game time from him, we don't know exactly how he's going to be stepping into the National League with the pressure of that. when Sam went out, we had the option with Anthony Patterson, who's played 4 games first team for Sunderland and did very, very well. So it seemed to me that getting additional cover in that area was important. So yeah, Tiernan's going to be a good goalkeeper, no question about it. Right now where he's at, I felt like he still needs a little bit more time, and therefore we bring somebody in that we felt was ready straight away.
I think it's important to stress as well, Tiernan's quite understanding of the situation as well, isn't he?
Yeah, we talked with Tiernan about it, and he also feels like he's developing in the right way, and he's getting good minutes where he's at. So, of course, he would like to play. Everybody wants to play, but he's still early in his development, especially as a goalkeeper. Anthony's maybe a little bit ahead, had a few more first team games, so that's why we just felt that.
Thanks for your question. Who's next? Got one over there, Al? And we'll come to you next, sir. I like switching the play for Al.
It's good. Yeah.
Hi, Kyle. How's the hamstring, first of all? And the other one is, does anyone in the squad have a yoga practice or spiritual sort of practice? Because obviously the physical demands and the mental demands, can take their toll. But does anybody take time to connect with nature or meditate?
What a question that is.
Yeah. First of all, hamstrings doing well. Sort of hopefully looking towards the Yeovil game, and if anything's before that, it's a bonus. So not too long now. And on that side, I don't think so. But I do know, obviously, we have individual programs that we do on a daily basis, which have a lot of recovery stuff in. That includes your sort of stretching and your kind of yoga routines that you do anyway. So that is something that everyone is doing.
Doyle, you're a top pro in terms of keeping yourself fit and stuff. What was the secret for you to be playing as long as you? I'm going to say have been, because you're still registered as a player. Have you ever yoga stuff like that? Has that ever been on your radar?
Yeah, did it a little bit at certain clubs when I was at Coventry under Ian Dowie. We did a bit of yoga and things like that. It was good. You certainly felt the difference. It never sustained doing it. Ben Turner last year, he suffered with a lot of injuries, and he used to privately have do a lot of yoga, which was out to keep him on the pitch because he struggled with calf injuries and things like that. I think it certainly benefits players, and I think a lot of clubs now are doing it. Certainly the bigger clubs have people come in all the time and are doing it.
Interesting question. Thank you very much for that. I'll get bombing down the wing. Far corner up there near the bar.
This is for Ian. Are there any plans to extend Carl Whatton's contract in place at all, please?
I mean, yeah, it would be great. I mean, we haven't really opened those discussions. I think Carl knows how much we value him. He's seen that from the fact that he's part of the captaincy and leadership team. His vice captain led the team out the weekend. So I think he knows how highly we regard him. I think he knows that he's playing some of his best football that he's played here, and I know that he enjoys it. It's still early probably for him to make decisions on his future, but it is something that we've talked about internally. Of course, we'd love to keep Kyle, and at the right moment, we'll bring that to him and see where he's at with it. But like I say, I know that he very much enjoys his football here, so hopefully we can keep him here for longer.
Who's next? Preferably somebody down this end to keep Alistair's steps going. Sarah.
My question's for Callum. Who's your best team? Notts County or your last team?
Good question. I think this season will sort of show. I think at the end of the day, but I think both teams have different strengths and different weaknesses. I do think for me personally, he has a lot more enjoyable football, playing up from the back and stuff like that. So, like you say, I wouldn't probably say one's worse than the other. Do you know what I mean? They had some good games last year against each other, which went either way both times. So, I think both, like I say, it's both strengths and weaknesses, and both are good on the day. But it's definitely more enjoyable being here.
He's a good politician, huh? A good politician over here.
Very well handled.
I've got another
no,
one
go on.
for Ian and Doyle. Who's your favourite player?
Here or in the world?
Here.
Oh, here.
Oh,
I don't.
Have you considered a career as a journalist?
Whoever I say now is going to be
You better
teacher's
say
pet,
Whatton.
you know. No, I can't say if
I play a bit of Sunday League, you know, you could get it.
Nick's decent.
Yeah, thank you.
Just say Whatton.
Yeah, Nick.
Just say Whatton.
Okay. No, we have a lot of good ones. I don't have my favourite changes week to week based on training and games. So, yeah.
Hey, I tell you what, great questions, Sarah.
Yeah, very
Thank
good.
you. I'm not sure we appreciate them, but great questions nonetheless. Who's next for the questions? Somebody must have a burning one. Come on, got two over there, Al.
This is one for Alice.
Oi.
It was great when we used to have the kids on the pitch at half time. Yeah. Even if it was just that we'd take sides, both sets of supporters, and you know, give them a bit of encouragement. What's the chances of it coming back?
I miss that too, and my mascots. Unfortunately, I have been told I can't have anybody, members of the public, on the pitch at this moment in time. I am hoping that will change. So if it does, I will be bringing mascots back, matchday experience teams back, activities in the family stand. But until that point, unfortunately, the league have said no due to COVID restrictions. But they will be back. I do miss it.
Hiya. This is probably another obscure one as well, but I don't know if you noticed last week there was a lot in the media about Huddersfield Town changing their kit due to the impact it had on colourblind supporters. Have Notts County considered the impact of sort of colourblindness within the playing squad? Is that something that's been looked at? Is that something that you take into account?
It's an interesting one for you, Kyle, isn't it? Because you had a bit of an epiphany with your vision at one point in your career, didn't you?
Yeah, not so much colour blindness, but contact lenses. I wear them now, so for that question, I don't know the answer. I don't think I'm qualified to sort of answer that one.
We had that a couple of years ago. One of the young lads came up, and for about 6 months he kept giving the ball away. And Neil Cox, like, eventually one day after about 6 months said, like, what's going on? He said, I'm colourblind, I can't tell the difference. It took him about 6 months to tell us, bless him, young lad Rem.
Oh, right,
and he just, you know, he was bloody colourblind, he couldn't tell the difference of certain colours, yeah.
Well, I think it was certainly a new one for me. And have you heard of any instances like that before?
I had a player in Östersund, central defender, Thomas Isherwood, and but he was not short of a word or two, so he just told me directly when I put two coloured bibs. I think I had yellow and green, and he just said, like, I can't see one of these colours, so we just had to. So every time we just had to get rid of one set of bibs and then get the ones that Ish could see. So. But he was having problems. But I've never heard of it or had it raised regarding kits or home and away kits. So it's not something that I've been made aware of on a match day. But certainly I have worked with a player that has struggled with it. But then we just changed the colour of the bibs, so he was okay.
Presumably, if a player within your squad was to raise that as an issue, it would be something that you would consider maybe raising at board level or whatever in the years to come.
I guess so. I mean, if somebody's got a problem finding the right shirt in any situation, it's something we want to try and deal with. So yeah, I guess that if somebody came with issues regarding vision, to be fair, in one of the clubs I was in Norway, we brought guys in, they were looking at different types of vision, and left eye dominant, right eye dominant. It's quite interesting just to look at how players visually see the game, and yeah, they had like these special glasses to wear in training, and it was quite, I mean, it looked a bit unusual, but it was quite interesting to see the result of it. We didn't get much better that season, so I don't know if it helped us, to be fair, but we did it anyway. So yeah, I've seen different things for vision, but yeah.
Great question. We'll have to watch this space, I suppose, on that one.
Well, that's true.
Hang on, Loz, let's have the mic.
One of the football supporter groups put up a television screen for somebody who is colourblind and who isn't, and what they see and what they don't.
Right.
When it's quite amazing.
The difference,
the difference is phenomenal.
Well, it's certainly one that we'll be keeping an eye out for. Pardon the pun. Yeah, wasn't intentional.
Very good, Nick. Very good.
Got another question coming up.
Yes, Ian, you gave a very short response to the long ball, one of the very first questions. I'd like to know how you're going to explain to the 2,000 people that sit behind me on the cop that make my ears bleed after 15 minutes to kick it up the pitch.
Yeah, but it's... yeah, I mean, I see the game one way. I know that we want to score, but if we haven't scored in 15 minutes, it isn't a disaster. Like, it doesn't mean that the game is dead, or I think we have to try and trust in what we're doing. You know, I think the last game against Maidenhead, I could feel the frustration after kind of 20 minutes, but I had to remind myself... yeah, maybe after 10 minutes, but at the same time, you know, the two previous home games, we scored 3 goals in both of them. Against Aldershot, to be honest, we scored 5 because Dion's and Jim O'Brien's was clearly onside. So that's 8 goals that we score in 2 games, really. I think that we should trust what we're doing. I don't stress too much, you know. I know everybody wants to win and everybody wants to see us down that end of the pitch. Sometimes we progress down there slightly slower than we'd like, but I think if we can keep winning games and playing our way, hopefully everybody buys into what we're doing and believes in it, and then, you know, we get that sense of togetherness right through the stands.
How much is it a work in progress at the minute as well, Ian? Because we've got to remember we're only, 7-8 games into the season?
Yeah, I mean, football is always a work in progress. It's never finished. It's never perfect. It's like, it's impossible to play a perfect game. It really is. And you always see something that you can do better. So, yeah, I know that I say afterwards we can be better. And I only mean that because I'm always looking from quite a critical eye. Even after 5-0 against Barnet, I'm like, yeah, but, you know, we can be better in the first half. And I'm thinking, like, but we want to set standards, and we you know, I always try to look at things that can be better. So yeah, we are a work in progress. I think you saw at the back end of last season how dynamic we were. We played forwards, we kept the ball, but now, you know, we have slightly different players with slightly different strengths and weaknesses, and we're just finding the connections between them that are gonna. And I felt in moments we've been really close, and then in other moments it clicks and it looks fantastic. And what we've just got to do is find it so that it clicks for longer and longer. I think that's the key. We're not miles away, because I think people can see some of the goals we've scored have been brilliant goals. You know, they're not lucky goals. They're through real good patterns of play. But now it's just for us to understand each other and do it more frequently.
Great stuff. Loz, and then we'll go to you over there, sir.
I'm a bit concerned by the frequency of the booing that we hear sometimes. How does that affect you, Kyle, or do you just switch off to it?
Personally, when I'm playing, I don't really hear much, because when you're playing, you're concentrating and you're talking amongst your teammates and stuff. So for me, the booing doesn't really affect me. You're not going to please everyone every time. Do you know what I mean? There's going to be games where we get beaten. Booing is going to happen more than likely, and I feel like you say that's the demands that comes with playing with this football club. We want to win every single football match, which we understand and we know. So for me, it's just part and parcel of the game. It's something we've just got to take on board and kind of use it maybe to drive us forward a little bit.
Thanks, Loz. I think we've got one over there.
Just referring to the abuse business, I mean, Saturday's abuse was a bit out of order after the game, I must say, which I mentioned to you earlier. But another question anyway after that. Vincent was on the bench on Saturday. What's his progress? Because he seems to be a bit of a forgotten man.
No, he's not a forgotten man. Absolutely not. He's in our thoughts a lot. He's of course, it was a frustrating period for him because he came and he got a small injury and he missed a large part of the pre-season. So it's quite hard for him to get his first match minutes back as like return to play directly in the National League in them early games. And of course, you know, we did get good results early on, and there wasn't a huge need to make any changes. But he's on the bench now. He's been training really well. He's pushing. And I'm sure we're going to see him on the pitch fairly soon. You know, we got games coming in quick succession. So, and what he will bring is a lot of energy in that midfield, which we need.
Got a few over there.
Question for Ian. Obviously, in the past, Notts have had a really good academy, and once we get back to EFL and back up to 7 subs, is a long-term plan to have at least one academy player in the matchday squad? You know, like Man United for like many years have had at least one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, for me, like my history in coaching came through academies. So I started at Leeds when I was 21. I was working in the academy at Leeds, and it was a great place for me to get grounding as a football coach. And then I worked through that system, and then at Bradford City as well, you know, with the youth team there. And so I've been a part of clubs where I've felt unbelievably valued as a coach and watched the kids progress. I've also felt sometimes a disconnect between in some clubs between first team and academy, and I was a kind of coach that wanted to learn more and wanted to improve. And so what I've tried to do, I've sat down with all the coaches in the academy and talked about how I see the game, how I want us to play, how I think that the academy can develop players best, and try to give them some ideas on guidance so that it's easier when they get through to the first team. I think you saw in some of the pre-season games we gave minutes to lads like Brad that came in, did great, and he's continued to train with us. So I want there to be a window of opportunity for young local players to get football at Notts County. We want to have an academy that we can be proud of. It's been very difficult for them, of course, since we've dropped down and the funding goes, and with 5 subs you don't get that opportunity to maybe get some of the young lads exposure to first team. But certainly if we go up, it's something that over a period of time I'd like to grow and see if we can get some players through it.
Thanks for your question. Was there another one over there? Yeah.
Quick question for Ian. What do you miss most about Scandinavian life?
Ooh.
The coffee, isn't it?
Yeah, the coffee was good. Do you know what? I was there 7 years, 5 in Norway and 2 in Sweden. It's a beautiful place. Both countries are stunningly beautiful, very quiet, peaceful, and a nice family environment. I think me and my family have loved being back in England and around people that we've missed for a long while. But the nature was beautiful out there, really beautiful. And the coffee, yeah. But I don't miss the price of a pint in Norway.
What was it?
£10. I didn't go out much. That's why we ended up with 3 kids. I had none when I went out there. But it was, but we enjoyed ourselves. No, it was a good place to be, but we're happy to be back.
Who's next? We've still got time for a good few more. We'll go around. We'll see you at the back there.
Hiya. I have 2 grandchildren who sit in the family stand, and every home game they always stay behind to clap the players off, but very rarely do the players come to show their appreciation to those people in that stand. They go across the cop and they go across the main stand, but very rarely do they come across to the family stand. And the kids in the family stand are the next season ticket holders. So
thanks for raising that. I'm sure it's a message you can get to the lads, and Kyle, I'm sure you can contribute as well in that.
Definitely. I think that's an important point. I think that is probably something that I'll look to implement from home games from now on, because I think it is a valid point that they are fans and we should show our appreciation for them. So I definitely think that's something I'll speak to the lads about, and we'll try our best to do it on a match day.
Well, they religiously stay behind to clap you off.
Yeah.
Oh, we appreciate you raising that.
It's a good point. Good point.
Yeah, we'll make sure that gets raised with the lads. Thank you for that. Go on, Mel.
Ian, last year we had a lot of leaders at the club and boisterous players. This year, now Kyle wasn't there on Saturday, we had none. But right through the 8 games, it's been very quiet with the players. Is there a reason for this, or is it something that you want to push on? Like last year, when we had your man there, if anybody weren't doing it, you knew, and we heard it.
Yeah. Yes, no doubt about that.
Sorry about that.
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, of course, we miss Carl's presence as a leader on the pitch when he's not there, but at the same time, it's important that other players take responsibility. We've got a younger group. We knew that we had some older players, not only Doyle, he was still young at heart and young in the legs, but some of the players that left us were on the older end and had great careers and were great professionals. We've kind of reduced the age, but at the same time, that comes with less experience, which means that it's harder to communicate sometimes because you deal with your own job because you're still learning the game. But at the same time, I think that it's important that we create an environment that leaders want to step up, that the players want to communicate, and certainly they're not quiet in the dressing room, believe me. They and when they get out there, they want to. Sometimes it's good to let your feet do the talking as well, not only your mouth. So as long as they're doing that and that they communicate in the right way, I think we can grow some leaders in there. Yeah, yeah.
In his ear where you can.
Yeah, yeah.
Gentleman at the back.
My question's a bit random. Multi-ball system.
Oh.
I get so annoyed when we need a goal and the ball goes back of the cyril stand, and then we're waiting ages for it to come back, and then Doyle then kicks the ball along the line because the fourth official don't want to. And
Yeah.
it is so frustrating. And it's a bit random, but yeah.
It is frustrating. I echo that. Doyle likes to get a ping across the pitch though. With it, he gets a kick of the match ball. But I mean, Altrincham, I don't even think they had ball boys at the weekend, and it was torture watching the ball run away and then wait a minute for it to come back in. And it doesn't suit us because we want to play quick and try and get the ball down and play. So I agree. I didn't realise we were only a one ball system. If I'm honest, I didn't really realise until. This season when it was so much more noticeable for me when one ball goes out and then I'm waiting for this fourth official and they say, oh, it's one ball system in this league, and I'm thinking, right, the fourth official's got to get on it a bit more here. And then when you see the fourth official kick the balls, you understand why they don't want to rush and kick it in front of a big crowd. So it's frustrating because we want to get the balls playing, but yeah, so be it. We try and change a few things in the league, but it's not happened.
It's what people want to see as well, isn't it? If you want to see
Yeah.
fast football, they don't want to be sitting around watching teams wasting time. It should be just.
Yeah.
That's the thing for us. You just want to play and get going, whether we're winning or losing. I think even if we're winning, we want to play quick.
Yeah.
We don't want to waste time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great question. Thank you very much. Got another one.
I've got a question. What makes you pick your squad to start, and what do you look for in the training? Because every interview you say they've always trained really well. What do you look for in training, and what makes you pick your starting team?
I think the application to training is the first thing, how we prepare for the training. And then, of course, I look for performance in training. Some players suddenly start really stepping up in the training, performing well, and you feel like, Calvin Miller is a good example of that at the back end of last year. I think when I came in, he was a bit up and down with his training. He was out of the squad. And then suddenly I saw him in, a week or two of training, and it was like, I don't think I can not pick him now because he's delivering so much. And then he broke in and he stayed there. So I think it's important that players see that if they train well, there's a consequence to that, and that's I'm a part of the team or a part of because that's important. But also I need to see certain qualities that I think are going to be brought out on a match day against a certain opposition, so we know what we're coming up against, and certain players can suit them that kind of game. So we also look for that.
Thank you very much. Still got time for a few more. Ian?
Hi, good evening. First of all, can I just say thank you for giving up your time. I know the fans really appreciate these kind of events, and it's great that we're able to do this again. Just one thing I wanted to ask you, if that's okay. In some of your post-match interviews, you talk about you want the players to be braver.
Mm.
What does that mean, and how do you get them to be braver?
Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, but for me, it's like brave to want the ball, brave to take the ball, brave to challenge the opposition with the ball, whether that's stepping into space, committing opposition players, playing one against one. And I think being brave is not afraid to make a mistake. Don't be afraid to make a mistake, because the game is littered with mistakes, and I think that it's a mistake game. If a goal is scored, normally a coach can analyse it and find 2 or 3 mistakes. So that will happen. I think the players have not got to be afraid to make mistakes. They have to understand that we don't it's more about the intention and having a brave intention to get the ball and do the right thing for the team, and nobody go hiding on the pitch. So I think that's a consequence of the environment we create, the training that we do, and encouraging the players to try things and express themselves, because if they play within themselves, they're never going to maximise what they've got. So that's why I want them to be brave. And if I feel that we're not, I feel it's because we may be inhibited a little bit or passing responsibility to somebody else, and that's not what we want to see.
Thanks, Ian. Who's next? Couple over this way, Al.
Can I just ask you a bit about off the pitch? So, what are your hobbies off the pitch? Firstly, with you, Ian, being in Norway.
Yeah.
How's your skiing?
Skiing's all right, actually. I can do a bit. I couldn't do the cross country. A friend of mine took me cross country skiing, and he took me on this 10k circuit, and I don't think I walked for 3 or 4 days. It was savage there, but I don't mind a bit of downhill. That's a bit easier. So yeah, I could do bits of that, but I don't do that here. Here, I would like to say I play golf, but I don't have any time when I'm work. Normally, when I'm out of a job, I play golf, which thankfully hasn't been that often. And I've got 3 young kids. I've got 3 kids, 7 and under, so that occupies pretty much all of my time away from the pitch, really.
Fair enough. That was my next question about golf. I used to live in Norway myself, so I'm a bit of a skier.
Okay.
Cross country skier.
Where did you live?
Voss.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
Do you know?
Where the water is,
Bit
yeah.
of country, but
Yeah.
So, in the team, how many golfers have we got?
You don't mind a bit, do you?
Yeah, probably about 5 or 6 maybe.
Yeah.
There's a few of us.
Not many good ones. Sam's a good golfer.
Yeah.
Sam's very good, yeah.
Yeah.
You're not bad, eh?
I'm alright, yeah. We try and get out as much as we can. Obviously with the weather starting to change now, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but there's a few of us that play every now and again.
Are you putting a team together for to raise funds for
The lifeline.
For the OSA, yeah.
Yeah, Sam's doing it.
Yeah, Sam's putting that, yeah.
Sam's the head golfer, so I think he'll be the one that's organising that.
He's very good.
And if anybody wants to put a team in, John Terrington, wave your hand for the golf day, OSA golf day. There's your man. He'll sort you out. All right.
So myself and Ian are both in the Notts County Golf Society. So if ever the players want to come and have a round,
definitely.
We'll
have to do that
or
sometime,
staff.
Yes.
Or staff.
Who's up next for Alice? Oh, it's Alex again. Go on, Alex.
Okay, this one's for Kyle and Doyler. Obviously, Ian is from a very different background to some of the more experienced British managers like Gary Johnson at Torquay last season for Kyle. Would you say Ian is very different to those managers in terms of day-to-day management of the club?
For me, it's just a bit more modern. It's the new way to play football. Everyone's trying to play out from the back now, and sort of the beliefs that the gaffer brings is that so-called modern style of play, which is kind of the way everyone's going at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, he's different to a lot of managers I've worked under. British managers. It's but I think what you see is what you get with the gaffer. He's very relaxed, he's approachable, and he's honest, and that's, I think he's like that with the players. The players are very relaxed around them, and they work hard. I think they respect them, but they know who the boss is. I've played under some managers, some great managers, but they have that right presence that when they're not happy, and it can be a tough workplace at times, and sometimes that's not the best environment. But I think with the gaffer, he's very upfront, and lads know where they stand, and there's no awkwardness, and it's a good environment. It's healthy.
Good question, Alex. Who's next? Great.
Would you give us a preview of your thoughts for Saturday against Woking, and some changes you've got to perhaps make with Cal being out?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a tough game, no doubt. They're quite a physical team, very direct, maybe one of the most direct that we'll face, which is, of course, not ideal with the central defenders missing. So, but if we get the ball down and play and make them run, it's going to be harder for them. So we certainly aim to do that. Cal will be missing, but we got good options. With players like Aaron that I think has stepped up recently. Cairo can come in, add something to the attacking phases there. So we've got plenty of options, I think, to cover for Cal missing. It's never ideal to miss a player, but at the same time, he gets to freshen up, and we got 2 games in quick succession, Saturday, Tuesday. So then we get fresh players again for that. So that's a good thing in one way, and I think it will be a game in which we really have to work extremely hard, because I think they'll put up a real fight here. So we'll have to match that, and then if we can get the ball down and play, I think we can have success.
Clocking on for 9 o'clock now, guys. We've got any more? There's plenty of time if you want to ask a few more.
With Lacey being out, and he was out for such a long time with that injury. How severe is his injury now? It's quite sad he's out.
He trained today full. He'll train tomorrow. He got a kick. It wasn't like Kyle's was a hamstring tweak, but the other 3 were all impact injuries, which can happen. It's just a bit unusual that it all happens at the same time. Connell blocked a shot, twisted something. Lacey got a kick in the game, which swelled the next day and got some pain and didn't settle down in time. But I think with Lacey, it wasn't that he was impossible for him to play, but because of the knock, he'd missed so many of the training sessions, and with his previous injury, it was a risk to play him, and it was a risk maybe that was not worth taking. But he's trained today, and we hope that if he has a good week, he'll be back for the weekend.
What did you think of Kieran Brennan's debut?
I thought Kieran did excellent. He's a young lad that's come in fresh with 1 training session. I thought he looked unbelievably composed back there, and he handled the situation well. You can probably hear I've had a cold for a week now, and Kieran had also got one, and I think he was feeling it at half time. He was feeling, I can't imagine running around for 90 minutes anyway, let alone with this. But Kieran was, he managed to get through the game, and I was impressed with how he handled it. So yeah, hopefully he can now kick on from there, and it gives us good competition.
Still got time for a few more. Al's found one.
You touched on it earlier with Dion Kelly-Evans and Jim O'Brien's goals being disallowed by the officials. I was wondering what you thought about the officiating in the National League.
Right, how diplomatic are you, Ian?
Steve, turn that camera off. Do you know what? I just tried to stay away from. You know what? We'll get some decisions for us and some against, and that's normal. I know the very political answer, and I do believe this. It's a hard job. Like, I won't fancy it. I won't fancy refereeing games out here. I think it can be better. But at the same time, we're in the 5th tier. We're getting 5th tier referees. That's what we should expect. They're not Premier League officials. They're working their way up and making mistakes along the way. I think I try to be as calm and understanding with the officials as I possibly can. There are situations where, of course, we feel like we're a bit hard done by, but I like to try and think that if we treat the officials with the respect that they deserve over the course of the season, it should level out. We try to, I try not to get too caught up with them, because it is a bloody difficult job, and I don't envy them, and we all get frustrated at times, but at the end of the day, I try to give them that respect, which it don't always happen on the touchline the other way, by the way. Not Doyle's good. He's quiet on the sideline now. We're calm. I think the refs prefer Doyle on the sideline than in the middle of the pitch. But yeah, some of the other touchline antics have been a bit unusual. That I've seen some stuff, but yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you. Another one at the back.
In the past, we've had players who've been registered but don't play, if you know what I mean. So the question is to Michael, have you got a squad number?
I think I have the same one as last year. Yeah, it's the same one. Yeah.
No one dared take that. By the way, because when they came in, then midfielders were looking at 8, and then they saw Doyler and went for something else. So he's still got 8.
To be honest, I've never been really bothered about a number, So As I say, it's there for the lads. Hopefully, they don't need to use it, and that's what's the important.
Don't ever pick number 44, because both Alan Sheehan and Kevin Nolan had 44, and they never played again for Notts. So don't pick that number if you get another choice. That's one. And are we getting a bit predictable in the way that we're playing? And is that an advantage to the opposition?
I think that because we are a good team, opposition analyses a lot. I've talked to some of the opposition coaches that we've had, and I know that they spend a lot of time looking at how we play. I think it's a good sign when teams are having to adapt to you, which I think most teams come here and they're changing because of us. But the consequence of that is we have to really be better at what we're doing every time for it to succeed, because teams are constantly trying to adapt to us. So I don't think we're being predictable. We work with being unpredictable, but we have a way of playing, but we just have to keep getting better at it and improving at it to make it hard for the opposition.
On the coach on the way back from Altrincham on Saturday, I mean, we'd observed that they were doubling up on Cal and such like, so obviously they'd done their homework, and that was a bit of a problem for us, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, but it shouldn't be, because if they're doubling up there's a lot of space somewhere else. But then we have to exploit that space, which we probably didn't do well enough. We didn't attack. I watched the game back, when they double up on one area, it creates a lot of space somewhere else, but then we have to be much more dynamic to exploit that space, which we probably didn't do well enough. So I think it's a good thing when they want to double up in one area, because it just leaves openings for everybody else, and we have a lot of other good players who can exploit it.
Got time for just a couple more, so if you have got a burning question, now is the time. We've got one more at the back there.
Back onto referees. Was their goal on Saturday offside? Because I thought it was at the time. If it was onside, it must have been a hell of a close one.
Yeah, do you know what? We had that question today, but sadly the recording that we got from there was pretty awful vantage point. It looked it.
It looked the wrong side. I watched it back on Saturday night. It looked the wrong side.
I couldn't see where Brins was, if I'm honest. It was ahead of. To be fair, it's a shot from the kid that he's missed, and the lad's just stuck a leg out. So it's a miss it shot that's been diverted in. But at the same time, it comes from us that we have to do better to defend the first phase, which was the throw-in, where we didn't pick up the second ball, and then we give a team an opportunity to attack the space. So for me, it doesn't matter if it was or it wasn't. We can prevent it earlier, and that's got to be the focus for us. But yeah, let's say it was.
I think it was. Last couple over here, Al, I think.
Ian, a couple of times you've talked about us being passive in games, and Saturday was one of those, I think, where you used that word. Now Michael's not in there driving us from the midfield. Who are you looking for to take that mantle on and drive us from there when we get into those situations?
Yeah, I mean, if you consider, of course, I know Kyle's been out, but he's driving force from the back. In the last game, Chickson, when he plays, drives the team. He does. He pushes everybody in there. He plays with an intensity. Matty Palmer, although he's a quiet guy, leads by example in terms of how he plays. So we have a lot of players, and I know that many people will think that Ruben didn't play his best game at the weekend. Certainly the first half, he lost some balls that normally he was connecting. But what I can tell you is when Ruben loses the ball, his reaction to the ball loss and how quickly he goes into pressure and wins it back or blocks a pass forward, that's not passive, that's a driving force. So but it's a responsibility of every player to behave like that when we lose the ball. It isn't only one person that drove it. Doyler was a great driving force from the midfield, but at the same time last year, Jim and Reevesy would set pressure off together with Kyle and Ruben. So it's a collective effort, really, and it's just a mindset. I think like the first 20 minutes of that game, we actually felt really comfortable in possession without creating enough. We were breaking into the final third, getting into positions without being clinical enough. But then it almost felt like we hit a comfort zone, became too comfortable, and that's when it became passive. And I think we have to everybody has to drive it on with our actions on the pitch.
I think there was one Last question over there in the corner.
It's not actually a question, it's just that after the Altrincham game on Saturday, at the pub up the road, the King John, Altringham's vice president was up there with their former owner, and they were having a beer, and we were talking about the game. And they was actually surprised at the amount that they didn't falter in their stamina against us. They were surprised that we didn't steamroll them. He was quite complimentary towards us. I just thought to get that over to you. Well, yeah, you know, but he was still quite humble about it, and he was surprised that we didn't steamroll them.
Do you feel, Ian? Well, I suppose I can open up to all of you to finish. Do you feel like teams generally up their game against us?
Yeah, of course. I think like you see it with certainly here. You know, I think I come up here and talk in the lounge before the games, and I say, whichever team we meet, we're going to see the best version of them when they hit Meadow Lane, because I've seen the teams arrive and they walk around the pitch and they're like, oh, you know, this is great and we got to perform here. This is the biggest game of the season for them. Big crowd, perfect pitch, great environment. So at that point, every player wants to elevate a little bit. So it's up for us to bring that energy when we go to places like Altrincham, which, coming from where we are, is a mental challenge, you know. I remember we were at Maidenhead last year. I said to Doyle, it's tough here, like this environment, this dressing room. I was out in a tent out the back, and we couldn't fit everybody in the dressing room. So I was like sheltering in a tent thinking, what's going on here? And Doyle said, I like it. Like this has got character. This is what, and that mindset we got to take when we go to those places, because when teams come here, they raise their game. And so we meet teams at their very best. So we got to be at our best. But at the same time, we've got to find a way to raise our game when we go to some of the smaller places that are difficult to go and play at.
Kyle, do you sense that on the pitch, that a lot of teams come to Meadow Lane, or when we go to their place, that we're a bit of a scalp?
Yeah, I feel like teams look at it as a free hit. They come here or we go there and they expect to lose. So for them, they can afford to maybe cheat a little bit and leave people forward for the counter-attacks and things like that. And I think teams see it as the cup final, if so to speak. Do you know what I mean? I think they see it as a big game for them. So I think that's where we need to take the onus and show that every week for us is just the same. It's a cup final. It's a big game. Otherwise, like Saturday, we might come unstuck a couple of times and we could be on the end of a bad result if we don't sort of raise our levels to surpass the opposition.
Great. Guys, it's been some fantastic questions, and I have to say, you know, having worked at the club for the last 2 years over the pandemic, it's been a real miss not to have events like this. So I'd like you to all give yourself a round of applause for the fantastic support you've given the club in that time. And another big round of applause for our glamorous panel. Thank you very much. One last point I'd like to raise. The youth team are in the Youth Cup qualifying tomorrow night, so if you can come down and support the boys, I know they'd really, really appreciate that. So that'll be, all the details are on the website. Hopefully see you then. If not, we'll see you on Saturday for Woking. Thanks very much for coming down. Thank you.
Thank you.